The interview, next steps, all of it. So welcome back everyone to Senate Education, Tuesday, April 23rd, 3:50. Committee, we spent a little over an hour and a half talking with Secretary Saunders. Wondering impressions, thoughts, timing. What would senators like to do? Do you want to share anything?
She's very composed, I thought. For, what she done here, 2 weeks, maybe?
He's been on the job a week.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, having done that, come into an organization, not really knowing what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
I thought she responded to the questions well. But she does understand strategic planning and, she needs to have vision. I think she wants to go that. But I don't think she's gonna come in and start making changes right off.
No, I agree. I think she'll get to know, folks, and I was impressed by the depth of knowledge having been here. I clearly has been studying Vermont and understanding, really looking into things. Senator Weeks, any thoughts?
Just that, so there was a question about whether she had worked at the state level before. When we all go job shopping, we're always looking for the next job up. This, given the background of the scale of the school system she's been involved in and the scale of Vermont's public education system, I think that this is, it's not inconceivable to make that transition. So she's not a prior Secretary of Education anywhere, of course, right? But I think the scale of her engagement in previous positions has potentially prepared her well for this position as far as scale and scope challenges.
Senator Chief.
Yeah, I mean, I have more of a tendency to ruminate for a bit longer, but I think what I would have preferred hearing more on is about specific policy issues. And yes, I know that she's only been officially the secretary for a week now, right? But I mean, it's been a longer process, and I mean, I'm reasonable about it, but it's, I don't expect her to come in with, with legislative language to present in her confirmation hearing, but, it's
Right.
It would be good to hear, what about PCBs? Any thoughts on those? What about our SUs? Things like that. Or at least an indication that, there are specific policy areas that she's identified and stated that, that's an area that she needs to work on or learn more about preparation for next year when we come back. So, yeah, that was for me, my biggest area. It's a position where I think someone really needs to hit the ground running with an understanding of policies that are important to us and our kids. And yeah, that's my initial thought.
Have you been through one of these with judiciary? Not judges, but have you all taken testimony on like a secretary level or commissioner position?
In judiciary,
I'm just wondering, I'm trying to get
all been pretty sure they've all been
judges. Okay, I'm just curious. Senator Gill.
Thank you, Chair Campion. You all know my passion for education and kids. I think I made that pretty clear. The person who is in charge of the AOE and who does this job is in charge of the $2.6 billion fund in our budget, state budget.
Kind of. To be fair.
Yeah.
Not managing that.
Not managing it, but
yeah.
is overseeing it to a certain degree. And is responsible ultimately for future generations of Vermonters. So it's a big job. It's a huge job. I think Ms. Saunders seems really nice. I would like to have her working here in Vermont. I think we need her. She seems like she's got a really cool background, interesting background. She's intelligent, she's well-spoken, she's poised. I personally am not sure that she is ready for this job, given the crisis that we are in. And this is a crisis that I'm not calling it a crisis. It's been called a crisis by many, many, many people. We are in this inflection point. I think we need someone who just has more experience working in public education in schools, understands policy, understands systems, understands public school management to a better degree, has a vision. I think Senator Weeks's question about vision was so important. And I didn't hear an answer. I didn't get the meat that I wanted there. And that disappointed me. I didn't particularly like, or I don't think her answer about charter schools was accurate. I will go and do a little bit more research, but I just, that's not what I heard her say, and not what I understand to be the case. Also,
What was that answer? Can you just remind me?
that it just depends. She seems to think that charter schools are different depending on geography, and maybe that is true.
So I did have a conversation with Ledge Council, and might advise, talk to them also.
Okay.
According to Ledge Council, I don't want to be quoted here, charter schools are very different, have all different sites, all different things. So what's happening now, we use the word broadly, just like magnets and other schools, but do seem to be different in different states. That you might ask her for I think she has the 50 state comparison.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be great. And I also didn't love the answer she gave about public dollars for private schools. That's me personally. So that's where I stand. I'm being very honest with the committee right now.
Anybody else? Any other comments or thoughts? Please.
Yeah, I'm gonna use my experience.
Yeah.
I came here no background in education. And it takes you a year to figure out what your job is, a year to figure out how to do it. How long is her term? So, and she's coming with experience. And we set a policy. So I would expect her to come back to the policymakers and say, hey, I got a couple of questions. This is how the agencies operate or has operated in the past. What's your policy on this? So she should be looking at us as a resource for making improvements in the agency and state education system overall. Everything I got, majority of the emails I got, they had 4 points. She didn't have any public school experience. She'd never been a supervisor, never been a principal. I didn't hear that.
Certainly the public school stuff, I would already hear that. Yeah, I went through the questions that some of the superintendents sent us around public education, collaboration, understanding Vermont's education ecosystem. It's early, but I felt 2 decades, charter schools, public education, proven commitment to collaboration. I might be totally missing something here, but I left impressed.
Yeah.
Other questions? Other things people need answered?
The only other, if I could just say one last thing,
Yeah.
I just want to highlight something that Senator Williams said, which is that we can be a resource to the AOE. I think that's a great point. I feel like we should work together with the AOE and help each other out as much as possible, I think, and maybe there's ways we can do more of that.
I think we can help to narrow her focus
Yeah,
so that she can be successful. And we can be successful overall.
well, and the only other thing is, I think at other times in the history of Vermont, when the AOE was in a more robust place, and maybe when we weren't in such a crisis, maybe Ms. Saunders would have potentially been a good leader. But I just feel like, given this point in time, where things are just incredibly, in need of very pointed help, assistance, strategy. I'm unsure, but, I will agree with Senator Hashim that I also would like to, sleep on it and think a little bit more on it, so I'm not prepared necessarily to vote right now.
Yeah, I would say on the vision thing, the only thing I would add is I don't think any of us have a vision. I mean, we all sort of have a vision. But I think we're about to look at a document outlining the vision. Correct me if I'm wrong, the yield bill, I believe, is trying to get us toward a state vision. We're gonna be taken through that tomorrow. So I think in a way, I'd like her to, frankly, it depends. Not sure I personally wanted her to come in and say, this is my vision, having been here a week. I would find that a little bit. Yeah, personally, yeah, I just don't know if I would want her to, I mean, she did talk about literacy. I mean, we all want to talk about vision. Man, it gets to reading. That's what I would say, yeah.
I would, I'd have to say, officially, yes, she's been secretary for a week, but it's been a months-long process where she's, when was it that she was appointed, or,
April 1st, something, we guess.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's, I mean, she was in the job process, the application, the interviews and so on, longer than just a couple of weeks. And so I feel like there's a length of time in which,
Wouldn't you want her to engage the field before she talked about her vision?
Sure.
I mean, honestly, push back and tell me no. I'm just thinking, I would want her to come in and say, hey, let's all meet, let's all talk, look at this yield bill, and together do a vision. But feel free to disagree. I'm just curious because the vision thing is big.
yeah, I mean, I feel like she has been engaging the field, but it's also, it is early on.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't expect her to come in and say, okay,
This is
I've been here a
next
week,
year.
you guys should
Yeah.
amend this statute, just so you know, that's not what I'm expecting.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
We're,
yeah.
we're at a bit of a disadvantage too, because we didn't get to talk to the other 18 people. So I'm not saying
Well, that's-
she may have been the best choice, but one of
Listen, I was
the,
on natural resources for years. The governor appoints people.
Right.
Yeah.
one of the questions I
Yeah.
was gonna ask her, but I thought it was too softball, was why'd you come to Vermont? I mean, and she kind of answered it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that also. I didn't think it was a softball. I was looking through some of the stuff that some folks had said on the news. And one person did say, because on Vermont Edition said, why Vermont? I guess somebody should ask that. I felt like she addressed that enough for me. You gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna comment on, I specifically asked her a question about the governor's mission.
Mhm.
That if they spoke about her, if the governor had put her on a mission, like, to me, that's like focus, right?
Yeah,
Which then led to the question of are you sharing a vision of Vermont's education system?
yeah.
Again, I thought it was like, wide open question, could have gone anywhere. And left me a little hanging. Yeah, and I'm curious, I believe, because I believe the governor's got, he had a vision of the next Secretary of Education. Ms. Saunders fit that vision, and I'd be surprised if that conversation's not happening, but it wasn't shared. And that's unfortunate because we're all dealing with it, obviously with education, and it would be helpful to know where we're going from an executive branch perspective.
Well, the governor's conversations and connections.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is, I know she's been at it, sort of looked at for a while. She has been getting paid for a week. She's had to move, again,
Oh, no,
maybe
I
she
get
hasn't
that.
had a chance to sort of.
But,
sit down with the guy.
But I would, my thought was that, there's some synergy. The governor, well, she was the best candidate.
Oh, right,
She
right.
accepted the position. She's a education professional, and somewhere that story leads together into what at least what they,
Yeah,
governor and her would like to accomplish together. And I just thought it was just a missed opportunity.
you can always loop back to her, yeah.
No, it's in my former life, that was, the vision comes from your boss. So, in the military, it's the commander's intent, his vision of what he expects everybody subordinate to him to do. We don't have that subordinate, organization here, but it really needs to be, she's working for the government. So she needs to know what his vision is. And then if she doesn't have the resources to actually affect that vision, she needs to come back to him and say, hey, I understand what you want, and I agree with you, and I think, these are the things I want to do to make it happen, but we need to do this, and this.
Senator Weeks.
No, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much, Senator Weeks. Yeah, I will just very respectfully push back. I've never taken a job where I didn't go into it with a vision. That doesn't mean I implemented my vision.
That doesn't mean she
I
doesn't have it.
asked for help, I asked for, colleagueship and collaboration, but I had a vision. And again, this is a job that is very big, very important at a very critical time. To come in without a home run vision that can be tweaked and changed depending on the landscape is very troubling to me.
So give me an example of what she might have said.
Well, what
But
I
she did talk about a little bit, we want to go back and read it. At one point, she's talked about, for example, you should do these are sort of things, but tell me what you're thinking, just so I know.
Well, what I heard was continuum and alignment. I heard her mention indicators, graduation rates, bringing standards back. I mean, these are all words that we use in education,
right.
but they weren't put together in a
But
cohesive.
what would you
manner.
have loved to
I'm
submit?
not applying for this
No,
job.
I know, but
Brian.
just give me an example of what vision, any vision
She
would
could
look
have
like.
talked about school construction. What are we gonna do about that? Here's my plan. Boom. She could have talked about how she's gonna improve literacy rates. She could have talked about how she's gonna improve graduation rates.
But we didn't ask those questions
But
either.
that would all be part of a vision. Truancy rates. How about truancy? That's all part of the vision.
Yes, that
So,
is,
so let me help out my colleague.
yeah,
Wow, that's,
Just a minute.
go
I
ahead.
didn't realize that was funny.
I would have anticipated that she could have softballed that question with in my first 100 days.
Yeah,
My priorities are, maybe it is to learn about this, and this, or I understand this is the most perplexing problem in the state, and this is going to garner a great deal of my attention.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I was trying to get at my question as well.
Okay.
Agree, Paul, or the.
So I think it was a miss. That's what
so the first 100 days, this is what I would do.
to address Senator Hewitt's concern, that could have been an easy answer, an easy example of how to address that question.
And by the
Yeah,
way,
interesting.
I
That is it. I mean, that's
I
kind of
have an
interesting.
issue with my chair laughing at you, Brian.
No, so I apologize, but I do think we have to actually ask the questions if we want the answers. We can't
He
just
asked
say
it, I asked it a second time.
the vision.
Yes.
I felt like no, I'm talking about if you're concerned about truancy rates, if you're concerned about school construction, those should be questions that we should also ask her. But maybe you disagree. Anything else?
So what's the process in this?
What's next?
So we take a vote. We take a vote, I would say, when people are ready to take a vote, but I don't think we could put it off. I think we've got to take a vote, I would say, within the next 24 hours.
Tomorrow afternoon.
I would say tomorrow afternoon, unless somebody objects to that. I would say go through and read everything frankly, I would look at it again and see if you feel like she had answers to those questions. Anybody object to having a vote tomorrow? Freddie?
I don't think we'll be any more informed on Thursday than we will be tomorrow.
Yeah, and I would just take your time and read through everything. A lot's been said. Listen, there were things said initially about her being from Florida. I mean, all sorts of things. So just take it all into consideration. And we'll schedule a vote tomorrow. Morgan, that work? Anything else?